Today I'll give you a brief explanation about Alexander Arger's new pandemic thriller movie Oxygen, premiering today on Netflix. It may have been in development before the world knew anything about pandemic disease, but before I move on to the story of the movie, I would like to tell you a little bit about the movie. It's a film about isolation, loss, and uncertain future. It was shot in July 2020. It clearly reflects all of the international concerns about diminishing oxygen intakes in a manner that seems unimaginable. Most of all, it features a stunning performance from the great Melanie Laurent, who owns the screen as the film's only character. With robust direction and an incredible confined, Oxygen should feel like a breath of fresh air for people looking for something to watch on Netflix. Laurent plays Liz Hansen, a doctor who wakes up in a cryogenic chamber with no memory of how she got there. In fact, her memories seem jumbled up and inconsistent altogether, adding to her confusion. At first, she is not even sure of her name or her profession or her personal background. As these memories start to filter in, she communicates with an onboard system named Milo. You see, the chamber is losing oxygen fast. Liz has to figure out who she is, why she's there, and how to fix her nightmare situations. The first half hour of Oxygen is most effective as the film unfolds like a mystery wherein a victim has to ask the right questions to figure out how to save her life. She has a supercomputer at her disposal. That's Milo, but it's a system that only responds. It doesn't think of itself. She just can't tell Milo to figure out shit. She has to ask the right questions to get the truth of why she's there and how she can escape. Why has no one responded to Milo's distress signal? Why do calls go home and authorities seem to be getting her nowhere? Why can't she even remember her own past rather than in fleeting images? One of the fun things about Oxygen is that there are concrete answers to all of these questions by the time the movie is over. Unlike some recent high concept science fiction, the pieces fit in Oxygen. It might be neat to rewatch the film after all of its secrets have been revealed. The entire film takes place in the chamber. Arja asks a lot of Laura. She delivers, running an entire gamut of emotions from fear to anger to grief. Laura gives what will easily be one of the best performances of 2021. She is perfect for this part, reminding viewers of her incredible range while locked into a performance in which she basically only uses her face and voice. Some people won't be completely satisfied by the final act of Oxygen, but I think it holds together and it's undeniably remarkable, even if judged purely as an acting exercise. Thanks largely to Arja's momentum and Laura's performance, I also found it surprisingly moving for the kind of high concept thriller. Liz wakes up to the situation where never imagined has to figure out how to save herself before her oxygen runs out. Flashbacks to the hospitals with mass patients and doctors place the tensions even more firmly in the pandemic area. Without spoiling anything, it becomes a film that intertwines both grief and optimism, which defines where so much of the world is in 2021, assessing what we've lost while hoping for the future. The movie begins showing a white mice trapped in a sort of a puzzle or maze trying to find his way out. Then the scene changes and we see a girl who is locked up in a chamber and whose body is covered with a lot of devices. When she wakes up, she is astonished to see herself in this condition. She tries to get the devices plugged out of her body. Then there is a voice from around the system telling her that there is only 35% of oxygen left behind. The girl inquires from the system, "Who am I? How did I get here? And what's my real name?" The system tells her a different kind of name, which is not her real name. She asks the system to show her her image. Then the system tries to show her her face. The girl then gets worried and she asks the system to reveal, "Who am I?" But the system says that I cannot reveal, and the girl gets more and more worried and she says, "Please, let me know about myself. I'm here. Why am I here? The reason for being here." Then there is a sound from the system that speaks your code. But how could she? She did not have any idea that where she is, what the code is. She has forgotten everything. Suddenly she hits upon a plan. She says that when the system is doing whatever I'm asking him to do, when he's following my command, then why shouldn't I make him call the police? So she commands the system to call the police and begins to conversate with a police officer who thought first she was kidding. Then the officer starts listening to her and says that I am trapped. She says that I am trapped in a chamber Either it is a hospital. As Elizabeth was conversing with the police officer, the officer asked her to tell her name, but she was unable to recall. And she asked the police officer that I'm unable to remember anything, but I know that I'm here in a chamber and I don't know where I am, the exact location. Please trace my call and find out my exact location. The officer was saying, okay, we are trying hard to find out, and our team is on our way, and they are trying to get you out of it. But she says, okay, and then the call gets disconnected. Then the girl asks the system to match her DNA. Is it matching with someone else? The system says, yes, it is, and it is just being displayed. She displayed a girl. The police officer inquires from Elizabeth, but can you get me the name of the owner of the chamber? It might be written anywhere on the nearby on the chamber, so just search for it. But the system says that no, you have very less time and you are running out of oxygen. So should I kill you? Elizabeth denies to be killed and asks the system to find out more about herself. Then she comes to know that she is a physician and she had done an experiment in the same chamber in which she is today. Elizabeth comes to know that she was a physician and she had done an experiment in the same chamber in which she is today, and she locked herself, but she does not remember any code or anything else. Elizabeth commands the system to open her social media account, where she gets her photo with her husband standing along. She asks the system to contact her husband. The system connects to her husband. A lady picks up the phone and Elizabeth tells her that I want to talk to my husband. The lady gets angry and says that don't contact her again. Elizabeth gets frustrated and she tries to unlock the chamber in spite of wasting time, so she scratches the chamber with her nails that maybe it will open. At the same time, she encounters a rat and she gets scared of it, and she again encourages herself and says that it's this time I shouldn't be scared of it. I know it's all of my hallucination because I'm in a state of fear. She picks up an injection and starts opening the chamber, but in vain. Elizabeth again receives a call from the police officer who tells her that remember that you used to live with your mother. She denies. She says, no, I used to live with my husband, but he is not picking up my phone and he's not attending my call. Some lady is picking up the phone. The police officer says, you're thinking wrong. This is only your hallucination. Then she just again tries to see her photograph. Then she finds that her husband is not with her. So really it was her hallucination in reality. Then the police tells her the name of her mother. So then she says, this is not my mother's name. Elizabeth hears the police officer talking to some other person. She thinks that the police officer is misguiding her, and he's asking her to deliver wrong information to Elizabeth. Then the call gets disconnected and she receives someone else's call and she rejects the incoming call. The system reconnects to the call. The police officer, I want to hear to whom you were talking. As the officer's call gets disconnected, Elizabeth goes back to her hallucination and she finds herself standing along with her husband. Her husband is looking too weak. Elizabeth gets worried and she sees, in the meantime, she receives a call again from the same lady. She says that your husband is no more alive, he's dead. And she says, no, you are lying. The lady says, no, I'm telling you the truth. And at present, the chamber in which you are right now, I know about that and I know where it is located and I also know the code to it. So can you decode this chamber? Please, can you? She asks for help, but the lady says, I will reveal the code to you. And Liz begins to use the code. The lady tells Elizabeth, your husband is no more, he's dead, and I also know that currently you are in a chamber which is running in space, and right now I know about that. I know where the current location and where it is located. I also know the code to decode the chamber. Liz says, please give me the code, and the lady reveals the code to her. Liz begins to use the code, but the lady stops her from accessing the code. Don't apply it, as it will cost your life. So Liz asks her, why do I trust you for all these reasons? The lady says that because you are in space right now and you have been sent in this chamber for some experiment. The lady discloses that you have been sent in this chamber for a mission. You have been sent in this unit for a mission, and its system had failed as it started moving upward, and you were set on a sleepy mood. You yourself aren't aware that how much time you have spent sleeping. You have also taken low amount of oxygen as you were asleep. Now as you have woken up, you are using the oxygen. That is why the oxygen level is reducing. As Elizabeth commands the system to show her husband's chamber, the system does it, and she sees him, and she's excited to see her husband. She once again wants to live and begins to hallucinate that what was in reality based on her last memory. As Elizabeth went to her past memory, she saw that some experiments were being conducted on rats who were in a puzzle or maze. Whichever rat was able to complete the puzzle successfully, the genes and memory was transferred to the other rat. They wanted to see that the first rat has achieved the target. Can the second one also achieve the target? And the same experiment was conducted again and again and again. The main experiment was that if one rat is able to complete the maze successfully, why can't the others? Because the genes and the memory has been transferred to the other rats as well. So they should also be able to do it. This experiment was conducted by Elizabeth, who had grown old now. And the lady who was contacting with Elizabeth was Elizabeth herself. And Elizabeth, who was in space, was just a clone of Elizabeth. And this was the same experiment which she had been doing with rats. The memory of one rat transferred to another. So, real Elizabeth's memory was transferred to her clone, and whoever is in space is a clone. As her chamber had 0% of oxygen left, that was too low for survival, Elizabeth gets scared, and now she knows that she will be dead any time. She records a message for her husband so that he hears her as she comes out of the hibernation mode, and she closes her eyes and says goodbye. And again she hits upon a plan that the people who die in space, their chambers are empty, so why can't I get oxygen from those chambers? She asks the system to transfer oxygen from those chambers. She inquires, the system says yes, it can be transferred, but many days are required for it, so you will have to go in hibernation mode for this course. After many years, again, she wakes up and sees that she is along with her husband on the same planet from where she came for an experiment from the world to space. She is very excited with her husband, and so the movie also completes on the same scene. I hope you liked the explanation. Thanks for watching and listening.